Ghostly tales, yet mirrors of human life. Hey, everyone! Welcome to Encountering Chinese. Ghostly Tales from Zhai. Today, I'm going to tell you two short stories. The first story is titled Homebody Spirits. In Changshan County, there was a Mr. Li, who was the nephew of a high-ranking official. He used to live in a mansion where strange things often happened. One day, he saw a rectangular stool in his room. The stool was a flesh-red color, smooth, and glossy. Mr. Li had never seen such a peculiar stool before, so he reached out to touch it. To his astonishment, the stool seemed to bend and twist under his touch, becoming almost as soft and flexible as flesh. Startled, Mr. Li hurriedly ran out of the room. Later, when he returned home, he saw the stool moving on its four legs. The stool slowly moved towards the wall and eventually disappeared into the wall itself. Another time, Mr. Li saw a white stick leaning against the wall. The stick was smooth and slender. Curious, he touched it, and the stick suddenly bent and twisted like a snake, then vanished into the wall. In the 17th year of the Kangxi reign, a scholar named Wang Junxing rented Mr. Li's mansion to establish a school for teaching children how to read. One evening, as the lamp was about to be lit, Wang Junxing lay down on his bed, ready to rest. Suddenly, he saw a small figure, about 3 inches tall, entering the room from outside the door. The figure quietly walked in, turned around on the floor, and left without saying a word. Shortly after, the small figure returned, carrying 2 small stools. The figure placed the stools in the middle of the room. They looked like toys made of sorghum stalks by children. After a while, 2 small figures brought in a 4-inch-long coffin and placed it on the stools. Before the coffin could settle, Wang Junxing saw a woman entering with a few maids. These people were all tiny, just like the previous small figure. The woman was dressed in mourning attire, with a hemp rope around her waist and a white cloth wrapped around her head. She covered her mouth with her sleeve and sobbed quietly, her crying sounding like the buzzing of a fly. Wang Junxing watched in secret for a long time, feeling a shiver run down his spine. He was overcome with fear, his body trembling as if covered in thick ice. Finally, unable to bear the terror any longer, he shouted for help and tried to stand up to escape. However, his legs went weak, and he fell to the ground as soon as he got up. Trembling on the floor, he made several attempts to get up, but each one failed. Other people from the school rushed over upon hearing Wang Junxing's cries. However, by that time, the small figures, the coffin, and the stools had all disappeared. The second story is titled Growing a Pear Tree. There was a countryman selling pears at the market. His pears were fragrant and sweet, so he raised their prices quite high, which made the buyers very unhappy. One day, a beggarly Taoist with a ragged hat and tattered coat stood in front of the countryman's cart, begging for a pear and hoping the countryman would give him one. The countryman got very angry and scolded him. But the Taoist refused to leave no matter what the countryman said. The countryman grew even angrier and shouted at the Taoist, using unkind words. The Taoist said to the countryman, "Look, you have hundreds of pears on this cart. I only want one, it won't cause you much loss. Why are you so furious with me?" At that moment, people around tried to calm them down. They suggested the countryman should give the Taoist a bad pear and be done with it. But the countryman was stubborn and refused. An assistant from a nearby shop saw this and wanted to ease the situation. He kindly offered money to the countryman to buy a pear and give it to the Taoist. After thanking the assistant, the Taoist said to the onlookers, "I'm a monk, and I'm not stingy. I have good pears, and I'll share them with everyone." Someone found this strange and asked the Taoist, "If you have good pears, why don't you eat them yourself? Why beg for them?" The Taoist replied, "I just need a pear seed to plant. Then I can grow many pears." So the Taoist ate the pear and put the seed in the ground. He dug a hole several inches deep and asked for hot water from the crowd. A well-meaning person brought over a pot of boiling water. The Taoist poured the water directly into the hole. To everyone's amazement, a pear sprout emerged from the ground. The sprout grew into a lush pear tree in no time. The tree blossomed, and soon, it bore fruit. Suddenly, the tree was covered in large, sweet pears. The Taoist climbed up the tree and picked the pears, sharing them with the onlookers. Soon, he had given away all the pears on the tree. After everyone finished eating, the Taoist used an iron shovel to chop down the pear tree. He chopped for a long time before finally felling the tree. With the branches still attached, he calmly carried the tree trunk on his shoulder and walked away. At first, when the Taoist performed his magic, the countryman was among the spectators. He was so amazed by the magical scene that he forgot all about selling pears. Only after the Taoist left did he turn back to his cart, but he found that all the pears were gone. The countryman realized that the pears the Taoist shared were actually from his own cart. Upon closer inspection, he even noticed a missing cart handle, freshly broken off. He felt angry and upset, so he quickly followed the Taoist's path. As he turned a corner, he found a cart handle lying on the ground. The countryman finally realized that the pear tree the Taoist had chopped down was the cart handle. By then, the Taoist had already disappeared. Everyone at the market burst into laughter at the sight. At the end of the story, the author added a comment. The countryman in the story was quite foolish and silly, which indeed is quite amusing. He overcharged for his pears and ended up being ridiculed by people, which was not without reason. In our lives, we often see people whom neighbors call local wealthy. But they're always calculating. If a friend asks them for some grain, they get upset, calculating that it's their expense for several days. When someone suggests they help those in need or give food to the lonely, they complain, calculating that it's enough to feed 5 or even 10 people. They even calculate down to every penny among their family members. But once they get involved in gambling and other vices, they spend money lavishly, without hesitation. If they commit a crime and are facing punishment, they immediately pay money to buy their way out of trouble, fearing any delay might lead to consequences. People like them are truly countless. Compared to these kinds of people, the countryman in the story was merely a bit confused and foolish. There's really nothing strange about that. All right. That's all for today's ghostly tales. Homebody spirits, and growing a pear tree. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Please also encourage everyone to comment and share more. We'll see you in the next episode.